Kenji Nakamura stepped out of his expensive black Lexus. The crisp morning air carried the faint scent of roasted coffee from a nearby cart. He adjusted his tailored suit, a move he usually did before going into one of his multi-billion-yen business meetings. A street musician played a soft tune on a violin nearby, adding a melancholic charm to the bustling atmosphere. As he reached for his phone to check the time, something across the street caught his attention. Across the street was a woman, a beggar with unkempt hair and tattered clothes on the roadside. Something about this woman seemed familiar. Kenji squinted his eyes, trying to remember where he knew her from. Suddenly, the woman looked up. Their eyes met across the busy Ginza street. In that instant, Kenji's world spun out of control. "Those eyes, I would know them anywhere," he whispered to himself. Could this be Hana? He thought to himself. Hana's eyes widened in shock as she recognized Kenji. She got up and disappeared into the crowd, blending into the sea of pedestrians. The faint sound of traffic and conversations blurred in Kenji's mind as he stood there, frozen in disbelief. He walked into the office and sat staring at the sky through his glass office. His mind kept replaying that moment on the street, and the city's bustling noise seemed distant. At 40, Kenji Nakamura was very well accomplished. He had built a multi-billion-yen tech empire. His face was on every famous business magazine in the country. His name was mentioned in every boardroom. He had everything he ever wanted. But seeing Hana homeless and destitute had shaken him to his core. How did this happen to Hana? She was very brilliant and very ambitious, he thought to himself. He remembered how they used to talk about all their big dreams of changing the country together, often scribbling plans in notebooks. He recalled their laughter under the old cherry blossom tree near his childhood home. What happened with Hana? He wondered. A knock on his door interrupted his thoughts. His receptionist at his company, Yuki, informed him that his next appointment was ready. Kenji told her to cancel all his appointments for the day. He needed to take care of something. Yuki looked surprised but nodded. In the 7 years she had worked for him, Kenji had never canceled any meeting. Kenji grabbed his coat and walked out. He needed to find Hana. "I must know what happened to Hana," he said to himself. He couldn't bear the thought of Hana being out there alone, struggling all by herself. He walked into the busy street and began scanning for her. The sound of shopkeepers opening their stores and the murmur of commuters filled the air. A child's laughter broke through the noise as a balloon vendor waved colorful balloons nearby. As he moved past a lot of people, their childhood memories together kept coming up in his mind. How did I forget Hana? How did I let her out of my sight? How did I not know she was going through a hard time? Kenji beat himself up with these questions. He felt very guilty because Hana was the one person that believed in Kenji's dreams when they were younger. Each time he told people about his wild dream of building a tech empire, they used to laugh at him, reminding him that he was just a small town boy, looking for things that were beyond him. Kenji had become so focused on his own success in building an empire that he forgot about the one person that was so important to him. Tears filled up in his eyes. He really wanted to find his childhood love so he could fix everything that went wrong. When they were growing up, Hana's home life was not good at all. Her parents fought and argued every day. Hana would run to Kenji's house to get away from the chaos in her home. There, they would sit and dream of building a better life and a better future together. But their high school graduation day was the last time he ever saw her. He vividly remembered Hannah's teary eyes as they said goodbye, standing under the cherry blossoms. After high school, Kenji had a full scholarship to study abroad, while Hannah was not so lucky. She had admission to the university, but her parents didn't have the money to send her to school. Kenji was sad that he had lost touch with the one person that believed in him and encouraged him. He was determined to find Hannah and make up for all the suffering she had gone through. Kenji continued his search through the city streets, hoping to find the woman who had once been his whole world. When he was abroad, he wrote letters to Hannah often, but Hannah was not writing back as often. Her emails were short, as if Kenji was bothering her. After university, Kenji graduated top of his class and came back to Japan to establish his tech company. He became very successful, and that kept him too busy to remember anything or anyone. Meanwhile, Hannah's life had taken a drastically different turn. After high school, unable to afford university, she had taken a job at a local cafe to help support her mother, who was sick. Her dreams of changing the world slowly disappeared, replaced by the harsh realities of low-wage work and mounting medical bills. From the shadows, Hannah watched Kenji's rise from afar. She was so happy for him, but a small part of her had hoped she would be by his side when he achieved it. As her mother's condition worsened, Hannah's life became a cycle of work, hospital visits, and sleepless nights. She took on multiple other jobs so she could afford all the expensive medication that was prescribed to her mother. There was no time for dreams. Survival became her only focus. When her mother finally passed away, Hannah was left with a lot of debt. She sold everything they had and nothing was left. She couldn't even pay for the small bedroom they had rented. With so much frustration, she gave up on life and found herself on the streets of Tokyo. As Kenji walked the streets of Tokyo searching for Hannah, he had no idea of the hardship she had endured. All he knew was that he had to find her. The guilt of his own success, while Hannah was homeless, weighed heavily on him. He spent hours searching the areas where he'd seen her, showing her picture to other people in that area. Someone recognized the picture and directed him. The streets here were dirty, buildings crumbling, homeless people laying all around the ground, their faces plastered with the same desperation he had seen in Hannah's eyes. Kenji truly began to understand the magnitude of what had happened to Hannah. This wasn't just a temporary setback, this was a failure in the system. This reminded him how lucky he had been and how easy it is for anyone to become poor and destitute. As he stood there, feeling the harsh reality of life on the streets, littered with homeless people and a lot of suffering, Kenji felt a profound shift. His own success, wealth, and power meant nothing if he could not use it to help those who needed it. Kenji was determined to find Hannah, no matter how long it took him. As nightfall came, he was so tired of walking around, but he refused to go home. He found a bench and laid there to rest. A soft drizzle began, the rain mingling with his thoughts. As he sat up in the morning, something shocking happened. As he looked up into a crowd of homeless people, he saw Hannah. He got up, grabbed his coat and ran towards her, calling her name. Hannah heard her name and turned around to see Kenji. As soon as she saw him, she took off running. She ran into a crowd of morning commuters. Kenji was not going to allow Hannah to get away from him anymore. He pushed past the commuters and chased down Hannah while screaming for her to wait. He was determined to find her and help. He ran until he caught up to her. He grabbed her blouse and they both fell on the ground. I just want to talk to you, Hannah. Please stop running, he breathed, heavy and fast. Hannah laughed bitterly. Oh, you want to help me? Like you helped me all those years ago. Where were you when I suffered? Where were you when my mom died? Where were you when I became homeless? She asked. The accusation hit Kenji like a physical blow. I didn't know, Hannah, Kenji replied. Oh, you didn't know because you didn't care. You were busy becoming a billionaire. She responded very harshly. Kenji held her shoulder and looked into her eyes. That's not true, Hannah. I never forgot about you. I tried to stay in touch, but you never replied to my letters. Kenji felt tears in his eyes. I'm sorry, Hannah. I'm so sorry, but please let me make it right. Let me help you now. I don't want your help, Kenji. I don't want your guilt or your pity. Just leave me alone. Go back to your perfect life and forget about me because that is what you're good at. Hannah walked away, leaving Kenji standing there, devastated. But Kenji was not one to give up easily. Hannah's words had hurt him deeply. He didn't care if she wanted his help or not, he was going to help her. He began to look for ways he could help Hannah and all the other homeless people in that area. For the first time in years, Kenji felt a sense of purpose beyond growing his company and increasing his wealth. He got in touch with some builders and paid them to build a homeless shelter where homeless people could sleep, eat, and have job training. As he worked, Kenji kept an eye out for Hannah. Sometimes he would see her begging around his office. After the building was commissioned, Kenji sent his workers to invite all the homeless people in Hannah's area. They all came in to get some food, a place to sleep, and registered to be trained in different skills. Hannah came with them, not knowing that Kenji had built that because of her. Hannah had registered to train in tech. She was very good at it. 6 months later, she was great at programming and won a spot to intern in Kenji's company. Kenji kept an eye on her but didn't approach her so she wouldn't run away and reject the help. One day, while working in the office, he overheard people talking about how Kenji had built the homeless shelter and helped a lot of people from the streets. Hannah was shocked to hear this about Kenji. She had always thought having money had changed him into a monster, but she was wrong about him. Hannah walked into Kenji's office to confront him. Did you build a shelter and help people because of your guilt? She asked harshly. No, Hannah. I didn't only do it for you. I did it for everyone. So why did you decide to do this now? After all these years, she asked. Because when I came to look for you, for the first time in my life, I saw how many people were suffering, and I realized how lucky I have been. I needed to use my wealth and resources to solve problems for other people, not only to make myself rich, he answered. Hannah wanted to stay angry and hold on to bitterness, but looking into Kenji's eyes, she saw genuine remorse, and she saw the boy she had once loved. I don't know if I can forgive you, Hannah said softly. I know, Kenji responded. I don't expect you to forgive me today or ever, but please let me try to make things right, not just for you, but for everyone in your situation. She informed him that she wasn't the same girl he knew 20 years ago because of all the things she had been through. She was cold, bitter, and angry. Kenji nodded and guaranteed her that he would do everything in his power to make things right with her. Kenji walked towards her and gave her a warm hug. She continued to intern at Kenji's company while enrolling in the university to study computer engineering. Kenji became a huge support for her, gave her a full-time position, and paid her enough to take care of all her needs. She volunteered at the homeless house and helped mentor other people that came in there. Together, Hana and Kenji started an organization and built more homeless shelters in different areas and expanded the skill training program for more children and youth and provided scholarships for people that could not afford to go to school. Together, they created a better community for people that desperately needed help. 3 years later, Kenji proposed to Hana, and they got married in a beautiful ceremony surrounded by friends and family. In what ways are you making your world a better place? You may not be able to save the world, but you can impact your family, neighbors, or your community. The lesson from this story is clear. Never let success make you forget the people who supported and believed in you when you had nothing. Use your resources and influence to uplift others, especially those who are suffering. Life is unpredictable, and we must always remember to give back and make the world a better place for everyone. Thank you for watching my channel.